What's the big idea?
You left it on
I
wide
think
angle the whole time.
the show would be much better if we had a script.
Yes. So then it would give it some format.
Who's gonna write our script
Yeah.
though?
Well, clearly it'd be me,
Oh,
Surely.
right?
Yeah.
I think we all agree.
leave a comment in the comment section if you want to be our writer.
Hey guys, last episode. Okay, welcome to
This one?
Volleyball. This is episode number 7 already, so we're way past our limit. We thought we were gonna give up by episode 5 because I think we're all. It's all safe to say that two out of 3 of us are quitters.
This is the bonus content. Everything is bonus content now.
I don't think Erik heard what I said.
I did. So 2 out of 3 of us are quitters. Is that what
I
you said?
just said. I think 2 out of every 3 people is what I meant to say.
And what were your?
Wait, is that a stat? Is that a stat?
It's a stat. I think it's like something like that. You
I
know.
thought stats aren't.
No, but just 2 out of every 3 people.
Oh,
This doesn't mean anything. I'm not drawing any conclusions. I'm not saying. I'm not even saying which.
right.
You know, I'm not even
Yeah,
saying
who
it could be me.
Yeah.
It could be me.
I think
Even Meach thinks that's funny. Anyway, welcome to Volleyball. This is episode 7. My name is Zuby.
my name is Erik.
And now Meach.
Ayo. Nice.
Now you guys are changing it just to
Yeah.
Exactly. I told you guys the greetings have to be the same every week.
There's that voice.
I don't like change. That
It'll-
voice is
it'll be
based
the-
on voice is based on someone I know, but I won't say who. But let's just say they're probably listening right now.
I know everybody you know pretty much.
So you don't know whose voice this is? You do.
I think I get away from
Anyway,
that person.
Oh, okay. That's too much. That's too much of a clue. Okay.
Great.
So today's episode is a very important one, as usual,
Okay.
because today's episode is called "The Plight of the Short Player." Now,
Hmm.
before we should fully disclose here that I am 3'4",
Okay.
and no, 3'4".
You'd be like standing on a.
Yes, we shouldn't actually. That's not. I don't think that's very funny. I'm a little surprised at you guys. I'm so I was a shorter player in my day, and I'm shrinking because, as you guys know, my goal is to become as fat as humanly possible. The goal is to be in a muumuu and in a scooter.
So you'd be bigger every episode. Is that what you're saying?
That's if you flip through the episodes like one of those old-fashioned books, I'll just be getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
I like that.
I used to do a little breakdancing. So bigger, bigger, bigger. Like that. But anyway, so I was a shorter outside hitter. Now I'm much taller. Meach, you were...
Wait, what? So
I just decided to stop
I
being...
was tall. I'm getting shorter.
Yeah,
You're getting.
it's all state of mind.
Okay.
Meach, you weren't small. You weren't... would you
Why
consider
is
yourself
this?
a...
Why is this past tense? What?
in our heyday, in our prime, when we were lighting it up, back when everything was black and white and
You guys were different heights.
the
back
balls were... Well, we could jump. Well, I can still jump. I got new shoes. But
then. So you could jump higher.
would you consider yourself a short player?
I was like smack right in the middle, but
I
I would
think so.
say, like I'm 6 feet. I don't know.
Back then,
there's times when
players
you-
were shorter.
Yeah,
Players
back
were shorter. Back then. They really were.
then. Back
Yeah,
then.
Yeah.
back then 2 out of 3 people were short. So
Yes, 2 out of 3 people were short.
Yeah.
Yep, back then.
Back then.
And Erik, full disclosure, what's your actual height?
193 centimeters.
Okay, say it in feet. Jeez.
6'4".
6'4". So Eric's 6'4". I'm 5'10". I think I used to be 5'11" before the fat quest. No, I was always 5'10". But in the program, I was 6'8".
Oh, in the volleyball
In the
program,
program.
like, that shows all the players.
In the program, I
Oh.
was 6'8".
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta ask how you did that.
Well,
how you get in that program to be that tall.
Well, people-
swapped his spike touch with his.
That's not it. That's not impressive. People didn't believe it till they saw me play. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so you're 6'4", 6,
Mm-hmm.
5'10". I think I could say 5'11". Like if Nishida can say 6'1". Nishida's a great outside hitter for Japan. If you haven't watched him, parents, coaches, players, go look up Nishida for Japan. You'll be very impressed.
And he can do whatever he wants, though, whether it be, hitting, setting. He's a great player just overall.
Yeah, but he's a dynamite hitter.
Entire Japanese team are very well rounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of
And that's sort of where we're going here with this show. Is our North American, in particular, volleyball and European, is there a bias? I mean, we know there's a bias towards short players today, but is it a good bias? Is it justified? Is it smart? Is it wise? What are we messing up on? Good or bad? I mean, what are some? I mean, take the lead, whichever one you guys want to go first.
well, what's the reason behind the bias, right?
Yep.
Like,
So is it justified?
right. It whatever began this trend. I'm sure it was done under good intentions, or
You think so?
well,
Why are you like that?
no, but it sounds bad just the way I said it right there. Like
Yeah.
done under good intentions to pick only tall people and then say no, sorry, you're not tall enough.
I think you're projecting your kindness
No.
onto people. Right? It was because you would have good
right.
intentions.
I'm trying to see why. Right. I
Yeah.
see what you're saying.
See, for people, for the person listening at home, Erik is a very kind person, and I think we talked about this earlier. So whenever things
try
happen in the
to-
world that are unfair
Try to figure
or
out.
not quite right, I have to tell Erik, with my evil heart, how evil people think, and yeah. So I'm the yin to his yang.
So
Did you see his face on that one?
That's called being hit by a truth bomb.
why is this now a thing, a trend?
Would you like a hug?
No.
Just a little hug. No, that's a bike match. Anyway, why is what a trend? The short, the tall. Yeah. Well, I have a theory as to why.
It seems like it's not seems like I'm sure if you look at over the last 3 decades of volleyball.
I wouldn't say 3 decades.
2.
I'd definitely say the last 20
Definitely the
years.
last.
20 years.
And when did the rules majorly change? 98.
So
Right.
yeah, the
From
libero
side
rule.
out
Libero
to-
rule came in '99. And the
99.
side out was gone, and they brought in rally point. It happened as a result of the 1999 World Championships that took over 5 hours, and the FIVB realized that they could never get on US TV without some sort of way to shorten up the game. So they got rid of rally point. They got rid of side out volleyball, and they brought in rally point. They brought in the libero at the same time, or libero. I say libero.
It's still
and-
not on TV.
And it's still not on TV. Yeah, volleyball has this history of trying to adapt to get on TV, And I think finally the cool thing about streaming is you can just now, like in theory, we could go back to silent volleyball again.
Yeah.
Not that we want to open that debate, but that's when the libero rule came in. And I think that's when the pigeonholing of short player as libero. So all those so I was a left side. If I was coming up today, they would instantly make me a libero. And I think the shitty part of it is that it doesn't matter how well you hit. You could be the best hitter on the team. I've seen best hitters on teams. They're just made liberos because they're short. And the theory behind it is that a couple different things. The coach often says that you can't, the whole line is you can't teach tall. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's such a horrible line because it just means that you aren't good enough to maybe, teach skills to players, right? So you're just going to take a shortcut and I'll just get these tall players to block. Like I was, had a friend of mine is a assistant director of a volleyball club, and he and I played against each other, and we were both the shortest players on the court, but we were also the best hitters on the court. We had a pretty big rivalry back when we played varsity, and he came up to me recently and he said, hey, imagine taking that player, and he just pointed to the not highest skilled players, but the tallest players. And I said, so So
Wow.
you wouldn't even make your own team.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, I mean, just like, and I was like, no, but you and I played against each other. We were the shortest guys. We were the best hitters on the court, and we had like a lot of good battles.
Mm-hmm.
You know this guy too, right? Captain of your varsity team.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And so I said, like, you would just not pick yourself on your own team. And he goes, oh, well, and he's sort of drinking the Kool-Aid, forgetting that he was such a dominant short player. And what made him dominant was because he was agile, he was fast, and he could fly, right? And explosiveness. That's what's really missing, right? When you see guys like Nishida in Japan, he's explosive, right? And you can't. It's hard for we're not saying by any means. And by the way, we're doing a follow-up show on the plight of the tall player, because we don't want people to think that we know that tall players are getting screwed in a whole different way. Yeah, and we'll talk in depth about that. But this, what's missing, I think, in the coach's understanding of short players is that if you have a short, explosive player who can hit the ball, who can jump, who can get over the net, who can block, if they're the best player, shouldn't they be on your team? Is it that simple, right?
That's right. And wouldn't you say that coaches that would go with that theory of can't teach tall, maybe that's a little bit of insecurity that, I don't want to teach.
Yeah, or I can't teach.
Yes.
Whenever I hear you can't teach tall, I think it's a cop out of someone who can't teach defense, can't teach blocking. Yeah, I think it's a cop out. And it's just easier, right? And it's also a way I think that they can't, if coaches are obviously, Eric, you mentioned this in the first episode, the coach who's overly concerned with parents. I think a lot of coaches feel like they can't go wrong by taking tall. Like nobody can question them. You know what I mean? Nobody can criticize their choice.
Yeah. But then it relies on that sim coach to, if they lose and it's because of defense, where do they go from there? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that at the international levels.
Well, that also gets into, like we'll do it next episode, the stigma attached to tall players. Because
they can't pass.
Well, no.
Well, that is a stigma of tall players.
Right.
Not an accurate one.
Right. That they can't pass or they can't play defense as well. Like, there's such a... There can be an advantage to having... tall players and shorter players. The thing about being smaller in size is that you have to because you're forced to try harder to stay at that vertical plane. Yeah. Their effort level is like 100%, 110% all the time in practice, right?
Did you say effort level?
Yeah, I did. Sorry, level. Effort level. Right? And
it's pronounced level with a V.
Shut up. And then
hey, that's not going to be a trend, mister. I let you guys get away with that last episode, but
I'm just nervous behind the mic, man.
No, you're not. It's okay.
Cuz when there's going to be, like, being a taller player on that team, they're seeing how hard this person has to try, and then they're going to see their success or their failure. But now it's just going to be osmotic now. They feel like they have to try just as hard.
What was that word?
Osmotic?
Osmotic? Like osmosis?
Yeah, but is that?
Maybe it is.
I think it's a word.
Osmotic.
I think it's a word.
I haven't heard that one.
No.
Like osmosis.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a word.
Okay.
Like
I
leffel.
knew all of them.
Like leffel. Yeah.
Like leffel. And waffle. I love waffles for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. They're all right.
And leffel for... Nah, anyway, this is awful. Eric, stop it.
Why can't you just
always
take less caffeine in the evening?
I don't know.
Less caffeine.
It's my own insecurity. I need to bully someone to feel better about myself. I'm glad I got
But
that.
you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know. So the...
and that's awesome, because that's going to make the person who's more... I was about to say more privileged with height. That just sounds bad. It's going to make the other players try harder.
Right. The height, the blessed.
The blessed. I mean, it's in my experience, I've seen a lot of amazing volleyball players that are 6 foot or less or lower, right? So
what about 3'9"?
Don't see many of them.
Don't see many people that are that.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think we should. I think we're gonna have to edit all of this out now. Meach, stop it.
Okay. Well, in the volleyball world, I mean.
Oh, that's true. In the volleyball world.
In the volleyball world.
In U6, they might be 3 foot. How tall are 6-year-olds? average height?
I don't know.
6-year-olds.
This big?
I don't think so.
How big is that big?
I don't know. I don't know. Let's just keep going. So I think that I think this is what you were getting at too. Like the creativity of a shorter player is kind of ruled out. So like I know I had to in the air, like I would be thinking about what I was doing to get a lot of points, and I could score a lot of different ways, and a lot of short players can because they have to. Necessity is the mother of invention.
What?
Morgan Freeman said that, I believe.
Here, take this for example.
Second
You know,
act,
like
Shawshank Redemption.
because we've done a lot of clinics for adults and younger kids, and then teaching them to attack. It's just we can teach them the skill and the movement and everything, but sometimes our greatest challenge is teaching them the aggression. Is that you need to? It's like doing a sprint. It's like the first, 2 seconds of a sprint, basically. That aggression, like
Explosive.
Yeah, explosive, right? And so you have to go. You have to explode, be aggressive. And so, teaching kids to hit the ball, we'll do the motions without the ball and stuff like that, and then they look explosive. Then we actually get the ball involved, and then it all like slows down. But I understand because they have to do the timing, coordination.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, but
even for the player who knows the spike approach, the explosiveness can be missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so probably because of that, out of just for things to be easier, sometimes you can get away with having a taller player who's in development, that even though they're not being explosive, they might still get there and get enough pace behind the ball, and they'll get it over or whatever, right?
Well, I think that's sort of what the pipelines are doing too. Like so if you go all the way up to the national team levels, they want to compete on the international stage, so they think they need to find as many tall players as possible and foster them and bring them along. The problem is, I don't know if you'll ever teach a tall player, not to stereotype, but I don't know if you'll guaranteed get the agility required to pass. So let's use that logic, okay? You want to survive at the highest levels. At the highest levels, they're also bombing spin serves and bombing crazy serves, men's and women's side. So don't you, and they have, again, going back to 1999 when they created that Libero position, that's just, okay, that's the only player. So hopefully they just get all the serves. But that's not going to happen.
No.
So you're going to, like in the old days, what it was your outside hitters were smaller, especially your left sides. Your right side was probably your biggest player. Even when we played, your right side was probably your best hitter. Or sometimes back then it used to be your second best set of hands because, setter takes first ball and then that right side was there. But the right side also used to be considered to be, should be a strong hitter.
Yeah.
And your middles were your tallest guys, right? And that formula was very cool because it meant that there was not a lot of places on the court. There was two really good passers for sure.
Yeah.
And maybe your middles were passing back then too because there was no libero. So the middles had those reps, and that's going into that other show topic where the middles are being robbed of opportunities to pass, right? So I think the problem is, so if you're going with this national team model and they're calling down, they're saying to all the lower levels, let's, develop tall players. Well, they're going to have a hard time passing and playing defense with the agility needed because the serves at the same time, the let service rule came in 99 as well. And that meant that's when the serves became bombs. So you could argue that maybe the idea of getting your left sides to be 6'5" and 6'7" is a bad idea now. Because we did see proof of it, right? I mean, national teams, Japan is the youngest. I think they were the youngest average age on the men's side. They finished 7th in the Olympics last time. And so in this Olympics, let's see what they do. But they are a smaller team, and man, can they pass. And man, we see the creativity of stuff they do in the air.
Yeah.
Like, this full swing, up in the air, spike approach that turns into a set.
Well, aggression to me means agility, right? So So if you're developing your explosiveness for your attack, your block, it's also you're going to be faster on your lateral or forward back movement, passing, right? And then because you need to be equally as fast to pass that ball, right?
And we're seeing Japan ace the shit
out
of tall teams.
Yeah.
And not just Japan, other teams are acing them too. Like I know there's a national team out there where their libero is about the same height as their middle. So they're even going tall in the libero position. And the guy's not passing very well. Like I've seen him get reamed.
You know, I just thought of something. So if the trend for a shorter player is that their verticals are just going to be much bigger than the taller player, right? Because
In theory, yeah.
In theory, like I'm sure Nishida's vertical is 40-inch or something.
Yeah,
So-
40, 41. We looked that up.
Yeah.
Don't act like you're just making this up.
Yeah. But now think of
It's got to be 41.6.
Give or take.
we did not just look at it before. We did, and he's also 6'1", but
That's
could-
on
he-
paper, yeah,
yeah, he
probably,
could be
yeah.
6 feet. Okay, so 40-inch vertical versus 25-inch vertical or something. You're in the air longer
That's one of the
with a
theories.
higher, and so because the whole thing is if you're not jumping as high, you have a shorter amount of time to actually make your attack decision or get your form going. Because the problem is you can't. As soon as your feet touch down, or you have to hit the ball, and then you have to prepare yourself for landing.
Mhm.
So, and then that requires your arms and everything to absorb the impact. So, yeah, you're in the air, jump higher, you're in the air longer, you have more options, and you have the
Oh, so
potential.
you're saying that's a good thing?
Yes, I'm saying it's a
Oh.
good thing. Sorry, I'm saying
That's
it's
funny
it's
because that's-
potential for more creativity. You
but
can use it as a bad thing,
Coaches often use it as the negative. That's
right?
they say that-
In the case of the middle blocker,
or
thing.
any player that's shorter with the higher vertical is in the air too long, so they can't land and make a play on the ball faster. Or they have to time their jump better. Like you can get away with a lot more mistakes as a tall
They have to
player.
time their jump
Yeah,
better.
because they can, and I know this for a fact. It is trickier for a shorter player
yeah,
to time their
there must
block
be
jump.
some.
Well, taller guys can mess up, or taller players can
Yep.
be a little later.
Well, that's just it. That's where the advantage of being tall comes in, because you have more room for error and still like
Mhm.
get a hand on the ball, like blocking or something.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like good, effective shorter players they're just generally better technique.
That's very, like, I found that to be true. Like I had to be technically
Yeah.
strong, and that's what led to me being, I think, a good coach. Was I had to be technically better than most players, and this
Right.
is true in all sports. Where if you're a high level player, but maybe not not as big as the next guy or whatever, for sure, I had to be in the right place, and I think that helped me coach. It helped me watch more, helped me on the beach. That's a whole different show about the beach and what happened on the beach with the shrinking of the court and what happened to shorter players there. But
I think in general we can agree that if you're shorter, you better have your skills together,
yeah,
or else
Is
what
it-
do you got, like fundamentals basically.
but it seems like it's easier to get the fundamentals together when you're shorter too,
yeah,
right? Because of the awkwardness. So
I mean, it could be because it's forced, like not having that advantage of height maybe prepares you or gives you that desire to have your skills be better
Mhm.
at passing, anything to do with defense.
Mhm.
No, could be.
I think it's also just proportion, right? So there's young players, if they grow tall quickly, they get a little more awkward. Their limbs are longer. Things are a little bit out of proportion. Whereas a shorter player tends to be more proportion. So if both players are interested in volleyball, and the shorter player will just have an easier time keeping their balance, landing, being in proportion. Whereas the taller player, because of the accelerated growth at an early age.
Yeah.
And then Eric, we talked about this too. One real advantage that's overlooked. Sorry, Eric, were you going to say something about that proportion thing? Sorry.
Well, I think there's some truth to like having growth spurts and stuff, and it
Yeah.
kind of throwing your coordination out of whack,
100%.
and then it'll come back in. But yeah, I played with record breaking 6'9" or 6'10" left-handed dude, and for sure, like when he was younger, pretty uncoordinated and like gangly. But like once he was like 25 or 26, he was
Yeah.
pretty devastating. Right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like we don't want to make this show like into anti-tall, because if there's the beauty of volleyball today,
Yeah.
and you're one of those guys, like you're a tall, coordinated guy who can jump, and that's awesome. Like when you see a tall player, a guy or girl who's coordinated and can hit, and there's a lot of them, then they deserve to be. Like we're not saying like they don't deserve to be there. Like if your whole team is 6'7", or if your outside hitters are 6'7", and they can pass and they can move and they can jump, that's the most terrifying thing in the world, and that's amazing. But what we are saying, though, is that I think what's really happening at the junior ranks, and that's sort of what we're speaking to is the junior ranks, is that there's this weird thing where you could be the best player in a tryout, but if you're short,
Mm-hmm.
you might not make the team.
That sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
and it's a weird, like, and again, it's I think the problem is, I think there's an overvaluing of blocking. Like, going back to you were mentioning about the blocking, and we're talking about landing and stuff in the air. What about the passing? Like, I thought it's pretty fundamentally agreed upon, isn't it, that passing is the most important skill in volleyball? Because you have the best hitters, you have the best setter, you have the best servers. But if you can't pass, you'll never get any of those secondary skills. You won't get the set, you won't get the hit.
Yeah.
Especially as long as passing is still first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if it ever comes a day where it's just a set of blocks, then
Block
that's
the
a
serve.
different time.
Block the
Yeah,
serve.
just
You can block the serve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, exactly. It's the fundamental building block of the offense. So I don't know. You could make the argument that if a coach took, so we do have these examples here where we live. Like, so again, not to be too regional, but I'm sure other people in their areas have the same thing. There are club teams in our area, rep teams, youth teams, that don't care about height, and they take the best 6, and they kick the ass out of the young kids that are tall. Now, you could make the argument that maybe down the road the tall teams will dominate
Did you
them.
just say kick the ass out of?
Oh, did I say kick the ass out of?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant to say kick the shit out of their
Okay.
asses.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know what you said. I was just like, wait,
Oh,
what?
maybe. I don't know. I'm going to have to take it back. Sorry, I meant to say Leffel.
Okay.
Leffel? Isn't that what he said? Leffel?
Sorry,
Yeah.
viewer.
No, sorry. But the short teams tend to dominate them at the youth level. So we don't know what's going to happen when they're 25. But there is one other point I wanted to bring up too about the short player that's interesting, and that is maybe we should finish that point. Do you think that there's will the team that's taller always win out over time? Or do you think the problem is that we're not developing short players as attackers?
If I was to say, I would say the best 6 overall, no matter what, is going to be the dominant team.
Would you still take tall in the middle, though?
It depends on what that player can do.
Really?
Yeah.
You kind of answered the question a little bit when you asked it, the little about, and you said, are we not developing shorter players to be attackers?
Oh, so you think that if it was just taking the best 6, then the shorter players would become better players by the time they're 25? Or what do you mean?
What I mean is that we don't really know what the answer is, because if we're not actually giving the opportunity to the shorter players, how are we going to
develop them?
If we don't make the like if we don't make if taking the shorter players is the error, how do we won't know that unless that we go down that path.
You mean not taking the short players is the error?
No, but
we're
you
gonna
have
take
to
a commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
You have to
You're just leaving.
you have
It's
to
not over.
pick the shorter player first.
Yeah, so you're saying that we'll never know the answer
if
to
you
this
never
question
pick
because we
them-
keep cutting them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree with that. But do you think that so in an ideal, so let's suppose though there are those clubs that are taking the top 6. There are some teams that don't care about height and they just take the most athletic players.
Well, when you say top 6, is that like you're not just talking their ability to play the game, but are you talking about also their attitude and their ability to learn?
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah. I'm talking about, so they're taking the best 6 players, attitude, everything. And what I'm saying is basically they're not just looking at their height, because there's a lot of clubs that just take height,
Yeah.
and that's what they do, and they won't even look. They don't care if there's someone going back there reaming spin serves. They don't care if someone's up there hammering the ball. They will. Like, I saw this where one girl, best hitter in the gym, and she was made the libero because she wasn't the tallest player, but she was the best hitter they had, and best, and this whole idea that your left sides aren't supposed to be amazing passers and hitters is sort of weird to me.
That would be so good to have them on the team. Again, I'm not even going to get into whether they're starter or bench or whatever, but just having them on the team as a left side in practice for scrim purposes and for the development of the entire team. That's so good. Like, just flashing back to like my younger club days or whatever, seeing a teammate again who's someone in my position that I'm like competing against, seeing them like go up and bang balls in practice is hugely motivating.
Yeah, but if
And
you
not
were
only that,
bad-
I'm learning from them. Like I get to hear, like, they get some feedback from the coach. Like, I'm in line waiting for my next attack. I can kind of hear what they're talking about, and then I can ask myself, oh, is that something I've even thought about? And so it's like,
why don't you mind your own business in practice?
no. If it was going to be private, the coach would, like, but I think coaches you can use that as an advantage as a coach, like say something
Mhm.
loud enough that everyone can hear it.
I was just joking, Eric. I'm not picturing you up against a glass, up against the wall with a glass on the.
Just take them to the side.
Are they talking about me? I hope they're not talking about me. I know they're talking about me. Anyway, no, I agree. But the problem is, so you're not going to get into the starter thing. So you don't think that the best hitter in the gym should be the starting outside hitter if they're short?
Oh, I was just saying as purely a practice example is what I was saying.
Oh, no, I'm talking about making the team and being
Yeah,
a starter.
well,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
if-
I hope they would make the team in that
and be
you
the
said left
starting.
side.
Don't you think they should be the starting outside hitter if they're
If
the
they're a
best
great hitter,
all-around
then
hitter?
yeah,
and
for
play-
sure they
yeah, I
should.
think they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
I
played.
don't see
So
why not.
so my kids' team played another team last year, and they were all short. The opposing team, and our coach told our players, "Okay, guys, we don't have to worry about this team. They're all
Yeah,
short."
yeah.
Okay, and then that team proceeded to kick our
Tushes?
shit.
Kick our shit. I knew you were gonna do that.
I was trying to mess it up, but I
yeah,
couldn't.
yeah, yeah. Kick your butts.
Yeah, that team kicked our asses twice, and then the next.
Wait, you were playing too?
I was
with
playing.
Girls?
I was.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
What's wrong with that, Eric?
I'm just.
You don't think that? You think that
Huh?
Eric is sexist and anyway? Yeah, I was. No. I mean, our
You're
meaning.
playing on a
Yes.
16U team?
I look young, and I kind of never felt
Just
like I
joking,
did.
Zuby.
I never made the most of my first opportunity. So sometimes I try out for kids teams, and I'm pretty good with. You ever see that movie Catch Me If You Can? I can make IDs like that guy. So Frank Abagnale Jr. Anyway, I'm trying to educate people. If people don't know Frank Abagnale Jr. story, go look that up or watch that movie. Catch Me If You Can.
Just watch the movie. It's pretty good.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio. I was gonna go.
So
I was
you
gonna do
got-
his accent.
Your
But
girls
anyway,
got their butts kicked.
So my daughter's team got their butts kicked. and I
Wait. Please do Leonardo DiCaprio
Okay.
accent.
All right. Okay. So do you remember the movie?
Yes,
Okay.
vividly. So
Yes.
that's why I'm
Okay. So I have
eagerly anticipating.
Yeah. So I can do. What's the line from the movie?
I gotta look away. I can't.
What's the line from the movie?
Catch me if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just say that.
Just say what?
Catch me if you can in
He
the
never says it in the movie.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't
Does.
think.
Near the end.
I don't think he ever says
Tom
it in the
Hanks.
movie. That would be the worst movie ever. Oh, that's why they called it Catch Me If You Can. He said that.
Don't you hate it when you're listening to a song and you never hear the title like said in the
No,
song?
I mean
Don't you hate that?
Tom Hanks does it. What'd you say? They never say that.
Yeah, the song title and they never say
They
it. in
never
the
say
song.
it. Yeah, like
Those are the
Stairway to
worst.
Heaven.
They say that.
I know. Just see it if you guys do. There's a stairway to heaven. There's a stairway.
Viewership on this.
This is going down.
Episode is
Anyway,
going
we're
down.
off topic. So Tom Hanks has the New York accent, Boston accent, New England.
Italian.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks is the cop. Remember? Oh, I thought
Yeah.
you said you remembered it vividly.
Yes, but I thought you were doing Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, but I mean, it's essentially the same.
Stage
accent.
fright.
That's funny.
They're the same accent.
They're from. Okay. So, my name is Abagnale, not Abagnale. Yeah. Good. Good. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Slow clap on the internet.
4 out of 10. Okay, you were saying
So I was saying.
your girls got their butts kicked.
Yeah. So they got their butts kicked by this short team, 2 straight sets.
Yeah.
And then the coach has a meeting afterwards with the team and goes, "So what do you think went wrong?" And my daughter, being my daughter, said, "Well, I think the problem was we underestimated them because we said they were short, and then everybody didn't play as hard and plus they were just amazing. And then the next time they played them, they gave them the same pep talk. All right, guys, these guys are short, and then they beat them again because they were great athletes. The team had a great set of 6 players who were jumping, and their outside hitter was the shortest player on the court, but she could sky, and she was cranking it everywhere, and had all these shots, by the way. And in the backcourt, you should have seen. I was like, oh my god,
But even
that kid is reading, picking
right,
corners.
even if she didn't sky, if
Yes.
you can still be a good hitter
yeah,
and just hit the ball well
and defender,
off
like
the
she
hands,
all
around
around.
the
Like
block.
the team was all round.
Yeah.
The team was all round. They were passing everything. They were setting, and the whole
So-
team could set. By the
right,
way, right?
Right.
Because that's another skill that a lot of coordinated athletes, tall or short, can do. But it just so happens that a lot of short players can do that well.
So as a shorter player,
Are you asking me?
yeah, would you say that
I used to be a short player. Now I'm a tall player.
you're hungrier in a game?
Yes, I was much more. Yeah, I have a lot of anger.
Mhm.
No. But I always did play. Like, so I was never a warm up hitter. You know, the warm up hitter is the person who cranks it in the warm up, and in the game they can't because I couldn't hit well. But the minute there was a block, that made me jump higher, and it made me more eager to jump in and jump high. And yeah, no, that's something that's we talked about this too. Remember a long time ago with the mindset of short players versus tall players. I have a theory that a lot of tall players who, if they did have the growth spurt early, they tend to not be as confident as shorter players because they were, the tall kid who grows too tall in grade 6. I saw it all the time as a teacher too. The kid that's really
They
tall.
feel awkward.
They
because
get
they're so big?
awkward, and they get, everybody asks if they play basketball, and because of that coordination issue that's not there, or
Right.
or they're not good at sports, and everybody's like, oh, you should be amazing at sports. And so they tend to grow up with this lower mental toughness than the short player who is well adjusted because they were always coordinated, like we were talking about earlier, more not centered out for their height. So I think there's a mental toughness that can come, not obviously not across the board, but I'm just saying in general, when you talk psychological terms, generally you'll find that there can be,
It's always an element of that underdog thing because, I mean,
and that too.
height can have its advantages in basketball. It can have it in soccer in a way.
Yep.
It can have it in hockey. So if you're always below average height, that's almost like you're always the underdog. That's
Yeah,
like
but sorry,
always
I was
the way
talking
to
about the opposite though, where the tall player can
Yeah.
be, the young kid that
Well,
grows too tall.
right, I mean,
they
they're-
don't generally.
They're like less self-esteem, but also the shorter
But the
guys
shorter,
are also
yes. If they're not well adjusted, like I was never like short in the world, like in daily
Yeah,
life, but I
yeah.
was, volleyball standard. But even when we played volleyball, I didn't like. It was different back then. Like I think
Yeah.
today I feel shorter than when I did back then, obviously. Yeah. So I think there's a confidence issue that we see sometimes, like looking at shorter players back in the day. They tend to be a little more, I don't know what the word, aggressive too, right? The confidence to be aggressive, or you're right, it could stem from the insecurity of being shorter or rising to that challenge, right? Like we do know this, like there's a lot of talk of this in popular culture. Like, is it, if you make a path easier for someone, is that actually undermining their fight,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's,
For
that's
sure.
something that if you do that for tall players in volleyball, maybe that's why you have a group, you might have 6 players out there that are super tall, but they might not have fight because they don't feel like there's a challenge, or maybe they had an easier path to making that team. Didn't have to struggle. Because I know, like, just as a metaphor, yeah, when there was a big block, I felt way more pumped up, right?
Yeah.
And I think every short player out there, and even tall players, like, if there's a big block in front of you, hopefully you get that fire going. But I think especially if you're a little undersized, it makes you just drive a little more and be aggressive, like you were talking about earlier.
Because you're always having to overcome when you're a short player. You
Yeah.
always have to overcome every single time.
Yeah. And
So-
that's where the creativity spark comes in too. Like you have to think of different ways. Like there was a period of time where I remember I would work relentlessly on, outside of the hands, out of bounds. And I was like, oh shoot, this rally's over every time I do that. Like just aim for that outside hand and just, and then until they learn, or like I'd go sharp cross. I wouldn't stop cross. I'd just go sharper cross. And Erik saw that the other night where see
Yeah, Meach was there too.
Meach was there too. Yeah, I was just going sharper cross. But I haven't jumped as much. It's coming out of
End of the
COVID.
season,
Coming out of
you
COVID.
got that shot.
Coming out, but in the next 6
You
to
got
8
that shot.
years, I'm
You're
gonna
gonna
get that
be
shot back.
hot.
well, they saw me. I was going sharper cross, but they were out by about 12 to 14 feet. So it was in on the other court though.
Mhm.
So maybe
So
we were,
that's got to count for something.
yeah, maybe we're just playing on the wrong card. It's not my fault. I didn't make the fucking schedule. Sorry. Anyway, so I would just go sharper cross, and people were they wouldn't clue it. You know what I mean? Like they would think,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take away the cross, but then I think the struggle makes you creative, like we said earlier in the show, and you were saying that too, Erik. So, and that's lost. And again, so like we get back into that issue, like only a coach who's played might recognize that, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're a tall player, they might recognize that because they had the teammate who was like that, right?
I think the coach who has played might recognize that their taller players that they've been selecting maybe could be more explosive at the ball.
Yeah.
Right. If you are gonna choose the tall players, then at least make amazing hitters out of them, right? And then
yes.
don't put that idea in their head that because they're tall, they should be good players. And then when they're not finding that success, then they're going to start thinking, oh, maybe I just suck at.
That's interesting.
And they're not thinking, hey, why am I not hitting that well? What can I do to be like, can I do some training? Can I like,
well, see, I think
more
you hit on something
aggressive?
right there that we talked about. The confidence issue is actually fascinating because I think you're right. There is a thought among volleyball players that they are better because they're taller.
yeah,
And then when they don't have success, that's
For
that
sure.
self-esteem issue we're talking about. I think it's worse for the athlete.
it's hit me before. And I'm
Yeah.
not even like a tall player.
Yeah. For a left side, you're a good size left side
Yeah.
today. 6'4".
Yeah, like because I for sure would be able in some games that I've played would be able to get away with my decent height and then just like attacking the ball and like again, yeah, being in all right shape at that time. It's funny because like even recently, like right now, I'm just not playing that well, and I'm just.
Erik's definition of not playing well is not the same
Well,
as other people's.
I used to
definition.
rely
It's
on like the
not.
height and stuff, right? So I could just like more easily hit around the block or over it and stuff. And then like if I've got like shin splints and stuff going on, and then so it's just recently I just blast it right into the block because I'm actually not that great of an attacker. I'm not that crafty.
Crafty. Okay, you could say.
Creative.
But Erik is
My go-to is just like.
so I'm going to interrupt right here because Erik is
Thank you for
Erik is
interrupting. 'Cause you give him props, and then I will give him props.
Erik's one of the best players that I've hitters and players that I've played with in a lot of years, and he's very humble and he's very nice, and I think Erik does this to get compliments. It's actually sickening.
Probably.
It's actually sickening.
Thanks, guys. You make
It
me
is.
feel like it.
It's like Erik's like the prettiest girl at the dance. I don't like this dress on me at all. Oh no, Erika, the dress is amazing. You think? No, I'm just kidding. No, Erik's humble, and that's why he's great because he's humble.
I'm building this up into a question.
No, are
Okay.
you?
Yeah.
'Cause, I think we just got.
And watch, it's going to be the ultimate question ever. Just like
It's just gonna lead to
just like
more
Erik's
compliments.
play.
Yeah,
Just gonna lead-
yeah.
Do you guys think I look fat in this shirt?
Here we go. What's your comment?
Yes. No. Go ahead, Erik. Sorry. Lead to your question.
I'm just saying I'm not a highly creative attacker. Okay. Now my question is, do you know what I mean? Like, are shorter players, do they tend to be more creative?
Yes, I think they have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's huge because if you're already like in like your youth or whatever, and you're already in the mindset of being creative when you're coming up to attack the ball and you're going into your adult life, your adult career, right? That's because now if you're already working on different shots and then you get to varsity or whatever, and then you start hitting the weights and now you start jumping through the roof and you have a wide toolkit.
Yep.
Now you're devastating,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Whereas that's what I'm trying to say is that I just got away with like just banging on the ball, line,
Yes.
cross, whatever. I'd score. I never really cared too much about.
You didn't have the need.
Didn't have the need,
yeah.
right? And now that I'm slowing down, I just don't have
What?
a deep tool. Yeah, a little bit.
No, but Erik. So Erik
Little
is
bit.
Erik is working hard to stay at this level. right? Like you're
Right.
if you
But
fall off.
work and life and shit gets in the way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But you work out to be here, and I think that's
You
what
guys
we're
know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's like-
I get the feeling that you feel like you're in your last burst,
yeah.
right?
Probably.
Like you're like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
feel that way anyway. It might not be
Yeah.
true because you can extend it. Like I'm 47, and I feel like if I train, I can get
Yeah.
some things back. Like those balls will slowly become like 6 feet out, but they're still sharp, and some dummy still touches them sometimes. That's
That's
so-
true. Yeah.
No, I think in a
that's
couple
the
weeks.
devastating part that
Yeah,
you can
it's
still
so
get them to
fast.
touch, and it's like, whoa.
It's so fast. It comes it's so fast right at your head. You can't.
Unless you can duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Or unless you
That's the
can.
thing. Just speed, which is still something. But no, I think that you're right. I think there's definitely a creativity component to and it ties in nicely. Like we're gonna do shows as we get closer to beach season about beach. This is why the short player was so good on the beach when it was still 9x9, and they had all that shot making, and they would take it to the beach and dominate there, and then they come back inside and incorporate some of those shots. And I mean, you guys still see you'll see short players indoor with a range of interesting shots sometimes, right? Because they've developed them over the years, right? I don't think I'm very creative on the court. I don't think I have a bunch of different shots, but
No, you were more of just a high flyer, hit hard angles, and then.
no, I was trying to do
was
what
it
you
a
did.
joke?
I was trying to do what you did.
Oh, and you're
And
always fishing for
you guys-
compliments. You
I was
were
trying to get compliments.
amazing. You were amazing. I did compliment you. Actually,
I said that.
I said you're a high flyer.
That's true. I was a high flyer, but I tried to get you guys to say no, Zuby. You were so creative, but instead I just get you guys are just like, yeah, we know. Yeah. So but you saw me play.
No, I have. Yeah, that's what I
fairly
mean.
good,
Like,
but
I
not-
don't think you weren't the kind of who like do the roll shot over the block. into the
No,
pot.
no.
You
I would just.
were-
But what I did was I had to do the cranks, but different type of cranks. Like like I talked about the use, the hard angles, the
well, and this is
crossbody down line.
so
stuff.
here's something I see often with again shorter players is that with a good setter they typically end up asking for a faster offense. Right. And I think that's something you thrived off of. And a few other guys I played with that were shorter loved a faster offense, and they would just, it just worked. But the thing is, you have to be in good connection with your setter. As we were saying before, the coordination is a little higher in demand. And because you're in, anyways, the timing of the ball and everything. But, the few of the shorter guys I played with, I don't even know his height. I think he was like 5'10", and he was one of our right sides. Yep. Super fast set out to the right side, and just like you'd always find a hole.
Yep.
And then
well, the reason why the tempo offense came in was because of the big block.
Right.
So the best way to get the big block was to do tempo loops. I actually wasn't a fan of loops. I don't know, Meach, you might remember this, but I liked the ball high and tight. And my theory for that was most people wouldn't like that if they were shorter players, but I like to be that would make me elevate more, and then I could see the block out of the corner of my eye and then just carve it around it. So that's how I like it.
Okay.
Now if I did meet some monster that was really penetrating, then I just tell the setter to bring it up. I still liked it high and tight because I had a huge backswing as a shorter player.
Yeah.
I really needed a big backswing, so I found that if I did go loops, I didn't have time for my backswing.
But is it also possibly because of the skill of your setter at that time? Because a loop is more
I think it was honestly my approach. So I was a really big fan of I needed a big backswing. So that's why even though you see me when I coach, right?
Yeah.
I do emphasize that, huge backswing leads to a bigger arch.
Yeah.
So that like if you don't take a nice big backswing, then I think you're not going to have a good arch in your back.
Well,
as you go
why
up, right?
why can you not have
the timing better?
Equally as big
That's
of a
true.
backswing?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I just found it was, I don't know. I think the emphasis was the tighter the ball was to the blocker, I like to see them.
It doesn't need to be tighter though, right? I'm talking about the same depth off the net.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, instead of it high ball kind of coming down, the loops kind of go out the side, right? So I think you might have just been experiencing a challenge between the ability for your setter to place that ball in the exact same position, because basically you as the attacker also being shorter, you're starting on the left side. You're basically starting your approach before the setter even has the ball, and you're already going to a predetermined area.
Yeah.
And then if you're up in the air and you're flying to that zone, then all of a sudden your setter sets it a little too tight or a little too back.
No.
You can't.
But see, there's no time to change the shot. Remember we were talking creativity? So in a loop, I had no time.
You're
so
more
I'm locked in. That's what I mean.
That's the problem.
That's why I like the high ball, because I was not locked in. So I could go up and I could turn my torso and carve if the hands were here. If they were here, I could turn and go the other way. So that's what it was. It was the high ball gave me personally. Yeah. And I know there's still lots of guys like internationally, like outside hitters, they prefer a high ball. Yeah. Even on the men's side, a lot of people run tempo because they think it's a good way to speed up the offense, and it is, but it can also produce if the blocker's there, you're toast, because it's a loop and you're there, they're there, boom. Yeah. If they're there. So for me personally, I like the high type ball, and it just gave me options in the air. But don't forget, I was in the air for like 4 or 5 seconds. So
there's still options with a loop.
Yes, there can be. Yeah, but your angle is it's you're gonna go across body, wide, versus I just think there's more time for the hitter in the air, but with the high ball, to assess and feel.
But I'm looking at if you have a high ball, doesn't it give the setter the blockers more chance to zone in on you?
Yes, it does. So the high ball goes up, the blockers get there. But I always found
you should always have a double block.
But I didn't get blocked a lot, right?
Yeah,
I don't think. But
and that's
it's just a preference. So I think it matters who the hitter is, right? Like I think there's most short hitters. I think rely on tempo. I just wasn't most hitters, I guess.
I could argue.
Easy. Easy. Wait till week 3 of this league, and you guys are gonna be devastated. You guys are gonna be devastated.
Maybe we should do an episode on high ball versus loop.
Well, I mean, no, I think they have their place. Don't get me. It's not like I never ran loops, and I loved the back meter when I was playing right. I had to play right side. I didn't hated playing right side, but I had to play right side, and I hated back meters. I just like. So what it was for me was, just think of it this way: I liked time to see things. Yeah. So that high ball gave me more time to see and that's probably the beach player in me too, right?
Because it's still fast enough that you're not going to get tripled, right?
Yes.
So if you're still looking at a double block, and it's enough off the net, you technically should have enough laneways or options to tool or tip or hit down. Yeah.
And even if they did triple, that's where the sharper across went, or using the hands out of bounds. That's what my favorite shot was. Hands out of bounds. It was awesome.
The good thing with more blockers is there's more, unless they're sealing very well between them.
More room for error.
But it is a well-sealed triple, very difficult to hit around.
Yes, but if you roll it, to where the opposing, you know what I mean? The cross roll, they're not going to get it. And there's more space where they leave, right? So, but so I just preferred the timing so I could see and assess what to do, carve, hit. Yeah. But
I think that the rainbow, for me personally, was the combination of the both. It's not a shoot, it's not a high ball, but the rainbow gave a great blend of both
speed.
Types.
Yeah, it gave you more time. And some setters, like in fairness, you're right. It could be that too, because one of my varsity setters did set a pretty quick loop, and I didn't like it because it was.
And you still hit, like, even when I play men's and stuff, we're still hitting plenty of high balls out of system. That's basically what it
100%,
is, right?
Yeah.
So you're still gonna be hitting those a lot of the time, and usually they're more off the net, right? So you have those options. Yeah.
Yep.
And this also ties back into quality of the attack, and quality of the attack is not defined by the height of the player.
No. I think we can all agree that we probably agree that you got to take the best athletes, the best players, even at the youth level.
Yeah, and
people see dollar signs. People see like glamour when they see tall
best leaders
players.
At that age, because like having leaders on your team, that's so good for the other kids, right? Like, not
as a leader. I mean, we can get that's a whole other topic.
That is, but I think like when you say the best players, I think it's important that we say bring mention to their
personnel,
desire to learn. Yeah, because that was really big. I just saying this out of personal experience. That was really big for me, being around players that were good and they tried hard and they were
Nice people.
yeah.
100%.
They didn't necessarily have to be nice, but
Well,
it's always a benefit. Yeah, it's always a
I think they
bonus.
do. I think they do.
I think
mean,
most
I
of
had,
them
I had,
were,
I had like
actually.
our set. One of my setters was a great setter, but he was a bit of a dick.
Yeah, I played with a few cocky dudes, but
Yeah. Well, not cocky, just rude and.
How do you know what he played with?
No. I mean, sorry. In terms of if he's relating it to. Sorry, did you say he played with what? Played with cocky. Sorry, is that what you said? Played.
No, he said, how do you know who I played with? I
All
think
right.
that's what he
Yeah,
said.
no, but I think because he was relating to my story of the dick setter, and then you said. And then
Yeah,
then
yeah.
he said-
his mind is perverted.
No. That's not, I'm not talking about that.
Gutter.
I don't even know what you mean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, for in his experience, this is what he is saying that it was a preference for him to have nice players.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
I agreed with that.
Yes.
I agreed with
And
that.
you're right. It is nice to play with nice people.
Yes.
But then, anyways, I love how we're breaking down our own.
No, I do. I know what you mean.
Swinging in a different direction.
Yes. Oh,
I-
Meach.
I'd like to address.
Meach has to leave.
Do you think?
My car. was
last comment. Do shorter players in the long term get injured less?
on. I was injured quite a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but I mean, I don't know if you can say it across the board. But why would you say that?
I would just say because if I don't know, maybe a coach is looking at longevity for his team, if they know if it's going to be a long season or not, and if they're picking, is that a factor for coaches to pick? Okay, will this guy have the longevity
So you're saying
based on?
you think shorter people? Do you think shorter people are less likely to be injured than tall people?
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
And why would you say that, other than just sheer prejudicial bias and form of racism?
Heightism.
Yeah, tall people are a race, I believe, aren't they? I think that was declared last year.
Well, so maybe it's connected to the coordination thing.
Could be.
So we're just accepting that Meach's theory that that's true.
No, I'm not accepting it.
It seems like you're accepting it.
I'm doing my nice thing and trying to accept his heightism.
Oh, okay.
If I was a heightist and I thought short people had better longevity.
Now, when you say longevity, you mean like they live longer, right? That's what I think of when I.
No, I'm talking about.
Actually, that actually is true. By the way, there is tall people have heart problem. There's a hard thing with the circulation. But anyway, I don't want to be too medical. I don't want to get too political.
But okay,
So Meach doesn't.
I'm just exploring the topic.
So
Yeah.
you think that tall people should die? Is what you're
No.
saying?
Oh,
he's asking our opinion. I don't think there's a difference.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I just don't think there's a difference because I don't think coaches draft or should a coach draft or assess for longevity? Is that a thing? Like
Injuries. I mean, I think it's definitely true that if a player is always injured, they might veer away from them.
I think that is true.
if they know
right.
them. Yeah.
Right, but if a player keeps getting injured,
Like, do you look at their frame and say, "I don't trust that
Oh,
horse"?
it's just like
That's gonna break.
there are some people who just have unfortunate bad whatever stuff with their
Yes,
body, and they
joints.
I've known many people that just go from one injury to the next, right? And it's just I don't see any consistent factors or you know what I mean? It just seems to be random, but
I think I know. There are some. I think I know what you mean. There are some tall players who struggle with foot or ankle or joint issues more so, or if they're not coordinated, they land badly. But that's happening to everybody these days. I think a lot of people.
there might be a little bit of truth in because again, as we were saying, taller players can kind of get away with success just by using their height. And so if they're not trying to have as good technique, they're kind of, I know plenty of guys who just do awkward shoulder things just because they get up to that height, but they're staring down at a double block. So their only way to get around it is to, force their shoulder into doing something like this. And then you do that 1,000 times. And what's your shoulder going to look like? You know,
I
like,
always think too. Sometimes you don't learn how to land if you're tall.
well, and I was gonna just say that as well. Like it's
Sure you were.
Yeah, athleticism.
Sure
and,
you were.
Yeah, because landing is a huge thing, right? And also taller players.
Sorry, landing is a huge thing. You want to
Landing is-
elaborate? Like safely landing. You mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, safely landing, but just having the musculature to absorb that impact.
Mm-hmm.
Would we think that middles? Would you think that middles, shoulders, and stuff tend to get injured more?
Because the cutting.
And maybe their knees because of the more blocking and sometimes more awkward
Yeah.
blocking. Like they're trying to get out there as quick as they can, and then they're
But that's a positional thing, right? Like if you have a shorter middle, you could argue the same
good
thing.
point.
Mind you,
It's just the taller players happen to be
yeah,
stuck there.
and if there's taller, I mean, you could argue there's more weight coming down on the knees for a taller player. But I would tend to think that the shorter player, I'll be honest with you, like I know my body went through the ringer.
Yeah.
Jumping is hot, like violently jumping, right? Like Nishida, I think is
Yeah.
just injuries waiting to happen. I think
That I think that is true as well.
because my body, like I know, like when I had my spine sort of assessed in my shoulder, like and you said this about your friend too, like my whole right side is out of whack from like swinging, and the
so much
joint,
back extension
and
for
my
shorter
back
players.
problems and the jarring of landing. My legs stayed pretty healthy most of my career, but my shoulder and because I think I had to swing harder and I had to do some of the things you were talking about, like the because I did that tall. I like the high ball, and I was doing a lot of that cutting and we all swung wrong back then. Like nobody talked about swing mechanics back in the day, so we all had bad shoulders, and it's kind of cool what's happening with shoulder mechanics now. But
Have
no.
you ever had shoulder trouble?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
All right.
bad. Yeah, for one season, it came back in like I probably needed like 2-3 months of like rehab and stretching. This stretch in particular helped a lot.
yes,
This one
up
with the
about the towel. Yes,
Oh man.
yes, yeah.
But yeah, it was bad. I couldn't even like lift it up.
Anything that gets that ball socket joint
Mm-hmm.
to open up because it's all not centered. And
Yeah, the pain was like in here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah, Erik was pre all the shoulder mechanics too, though. Like
I was swinging like this, so
Yeah.
like two straight up, right? Like arm instead of propping my shoulder up, right? I was hitting like this because I played middle all club, right? And I was just used to going up and just snapping. And then I finally figured out, if I'm gonna play left side, right side, I need to get that up. And now I can use my pecs to swing through the ball, and now all of these delts can slow my arm down as long as I swing across my body. But whenever I go straight up and I swing in line, like if my arm is perpendicular with my shoulders, and then I make that line cut, and now only these muscles decelerate my delt when I do that line cut, and that's what ended up happening. I'm pretty sure I did a swing like that, and then it just like went numb, and that was it.
Yeah, I hate when my interior delts slow my arm swing down.
Anterior.
Anterior.
Did I say interior?
I don't know. I stopped listening.
Oh.
He was thinking about himself.
I was just listening for my name. No, I had shoulder surgery when I was 29. Yeah,
Wow, that was forever ago.
that was forever ago. I know. It was 20, almost 20 years ago. Maybe 28, maybe 29. But yeah, it was awful, and I never would have done. Like knowing what I know now about recovery and training, I never would have had it done. Didn't do a thing.
Do you know what they did? Wait,
yeah.
the surgery didn't do anything?
The surgery didn't do anything.
Really?
So this is my.
Damn.
So this is when I realized how medieval medicine really is. I thought it was high tech and machines that beep and nice shiny things, and I thought, oh, this will be wonderful.
What kind of noises do you think the
the
machines make?
machines that go bing, machines that go bing. That's from anybody know what that's from? The machine that goes bing. No, okay.
Heart monitor?
Monty Python. They make fun of how the medical system has all these fancy gadgets, but I don't want to get political though.
Okay.
Which like just one of their movies or?
Yeah, The Meaning of Life. Monty Python.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh,
Dang.
you haven't seen that one?
No, I don't think so.
That explains a lot. Anyway, so the shoulder thing. So they said that, hey Zuby, your cartilage is coming off the bone, and I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, the cartilage is coming off the bone, because it happened. So the beauty of my shoulder injury was that it wasn't degenerative. it was one night, and I remember the night. Do you remember the night? Were you there?
Hard to remember.
Okay, so it was a Scarborough. It was a men's
Dang.
league, and we showed up pretty late, so no warm up time. First set of the first set of the night, of course, goes to me, right? Of course.
Oh.
And we've got to set the tone early.
Oh,
And,
no. You
and-
didn't
or
warm
Get
up.
the errors
And it
out
was
the
winter.
way.
It was winter. No warm up. First swing, and I was like, damn, arm just. My arm actually fell on the ground. No, my arm just like, oh damn. I thought, okay, I play through it, and I was still devastating, so I didn't know how bad it was. And then,
One arm,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Still
one arm. I was
devastating.
actually hitting it with the side of my head, because I was like, my whole waist.
Where was the pain?
It was right in the hole where my arm fell. No. No, the pain was on the top of the shoulder. So then it wouldn't go away, and it got to the point where I couldn't even like raise my arm like in life. Yeah, so I was like out there like a lame duck, and for a little while I was like, I'll just set. I was like setting with one hand because I devalued setters, of course. But I can't raise my arm. I'll just set. Sorry, setters. I was young and stupid. And then so I went to get it assessed, and then they said, well, surgery right away. They didn't give me
What?
exercises.
Did you get an MRI?
I think I did, yeah. But back then I was young and stupid, and this is like it's not pre-internet, but it was pre-smartphone for sure. And so I get the surgery, and they're like, yeah, Zuby, your cartilage is coming off the bone. I guess that was the MRI result. And I'm like, so what do you guys do with that? And they're like, oh, well, we go in and we staple it back to the bone. I'm like, wow, so high tech, the society we live in.
So no,
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
does it not just? It wouldn't just. The body wouldn't just heal itself.
Not. I mean, I don't
What?
know. I don't know.
Well, I guess. I mean, I'm assuming it wouldn't, because I guess if they saw a number of those injuries, and then I'm assuming they would have been like, "Oh, this isn't healing on its own. Therefore, we need to go in and
So what they
staple this."
it sounds so medieval, right? So what they did actually, so then I go under and do all the stuff, and they do the scope, and then they tell me, oh, it wasn't off the bone as much as we thought. I was like, okay. So we just scraped it a little. I'm like, oh, but it still hurts though. And
Well,
they're like,
was there some peanut butter in there?
yeah,
Like,
I
what
don't know.
are-
It's just weird, right? So then I went and they gave me all this physio exercise, that did nothing. And then I sort of went in, I started yoga. That's when I started doing yoga, and that sort of helped get it better. And then lately, discovering some of the stuff that we've worked on recently.
So you have a staple.
No, I don't. So they didn't
Oh.
staple. They didn't staple.
Oh.
They just ended up scraping
Oh,
it.
so maybe the scraping is like a way of cleaning the bone, or kind
Yeah,
of.
there were fragments in there that were causing
Right.
problems, but they so then I went back. I did all this physio forever, like a year later. I was setting in tournaments, so I did become I was setting in tournaments. You guys can probably still see the remnants of my hands.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, we
absolutely.
can.
Absolute nectar.
Yeah.
I just yeah.
It's the
we were
thuddy sound.
wondering.
It's the thuddy sound I'm most proud of. It's good because I don't have to call anything. The setters just know by the sound.
What's happening, right?
Yeah, the speed of the thud. But anyway, so I set for a little while there, and I remember I was playing this big tournament, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just set. I'll have the self-control. Ball gets shanked, call help. Someone sets me, and I'm like, yeah, what the hell? I go up, go to swing. I'm like, oh my gosh, shoulder just killed, and then
How long after surgery was that?
that was like almost, I'd say 7 or 8 months.
Because I remember it took a while. It was like you
was-
injured it. You didn't get surgery right away either, right? And then
No.
it was like years
You
later.
probably saw me after surgery when it
Yeah,
took
yeah.
a while for
But
me to
I
get
think
back.
I remember when you finally said your shoulder felt better, and it was like you said you were doing yoga and all this
Yes.
other stuff.
Yeah, and I wish I knew that before because I would have
Yeah.
went straight to the yoga.
You're probably lucky you didn't get a staple.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that all the time.
I'm assuming it would have been like titanium or something.
100%. Yeah, I get tackled at the airport, especially a brown guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get too political, but yeah, staple. Sure, it's a staple. Come with me. Rubber glove. Yee. Can't you take me out to dinner? Anyway, we're way off topic. Anyway,
Yeah.
but that started because Meach
yeah, we are
started
way
that
off
theory
topic.
that tall players get injured, and we just proved that he's wrong and
I
heightist.
posed the question.
He did. He
It was a racist question. That's like me saying no. I won't.
It made it made us go into
We get pulled
differences
off of YouTube.
between tall and short. So
No, it is a good point. I don't think
Yeah.
a coach would use it though as selection criteria. That'd be horrible if they tried. Imagine a coach. All right, I have a theory about players, and we're not going to take them if they're. You must be this tall to not be on the team.
I think a wise thing to do would be choose players based on sound.
Based on sound.
Based on sound, completely. They turn their backs or they go out of the room. Just listen by audio to what the players make, what sounds the players make. So are they grunting?
Actually,
are they
that's funny
slamming?
because there are players that are very annoying sounding.
there are.
Yeah,
There you go.
I hate players that like scream things in rallies and call for
Yeah.
the ball. I hate that when players call for the ball. So, you know, there are coaches that teach.
Oh, you're
players-
not talking about the players that make noise when they hit. You're talking about
Oh no, making sounds when you hit is okay. Depending if it's like over the top.
And players should still call for the ball.
Well, so
Mhm.
when they're taught, the problem with that is that when they're taught to call for the ball, it's a nightmare. So when coaches are telling players call for the ball, then they're like right here on the whole team, and the setter's like. "Ugh."
it definitely shouldn't be
And
an
the setter
annoying thing.
But you know what else too?
Like if
young
you're-
when you teach young players to do that, you know who the setter sets? The loudest player every time. It's so annoying because they're young, right? And you know, a setter is already has to be very decisive. So, but when they're young and insecure, and they have like the loudest player right here or the best player, right? And then the setter just gives it to them all the time. It's like, that's not good. But yeah, you were saying about the grunting.
Mm-hmm. Just a total selection based on sound.
That would be hilarious.
So Serena Williams wouldn't have made your tennis team, is that?
Oh my gosh, you would.
Yeah. Oh, so you want the sound?
Mm.
Yeah, Meach was big into the grunting sound. You like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up with the influence of Joel Despania.
Oh,
the Cuban.
Despania for Cuba.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Big
I-
hitter. Cuban
Big
hitter.
hitter.
Damn.
If you get a chance, viewer, take a look at Joel Despania.
Is this like
on-
Marshall? What's his
on
name?
Despania
era?
was the outside hitter for Spain.
Oh, okay.
What are you saying?
I thought you guys.
Cuba.
I thought you
Cuba.
said Cuba.
Yeah,
Cuba.
Cuba.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's his name? Marshall?
The big guy in the middle?
No, the guy was 50 now. This
Oh.
is
The middle?
on Cuba.
no. He played on the Cuban national team. It was his last name Marshall? But he's 50 now. He's still playing pro in like some league or whatever. But,
Oh, yeah. He must have
I
played
was
for
just
them.
wondering if this is the same era.
Could be. Yeah, because Despania would probably be about 50 now, wouldn't he? Or is he older, maybe?
What's his
I
name?
don't remember them playing together.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I
He's
do.
the captain. I forget his name,
Mhm.
but okay.
But it'll be easy to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If we were allowed our phones,
Yes.
but we're not allowed our phones. So.
Yeah.
It's not my rules. It's the internet. It's the static and the. Anyway, I think we're off topic again. Yeah, Despania, loud, and Meach likes to grunt because Despania did. Now, I have a big question for you. Speaking of blast from the past, best player of all time. We talked about him in our first episode. Karch Kirai. Karch Kirai.
Yeah. you
American
should bring him.
hitter, setter. This man is 6'2", has a 45-inch vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Generally regarded, I don't think it's even disputed that he's the best volleyball player of all time. The question is, in this era, if young Karch Kirai was coming up as a 6'2" outside hitter in the United States of America today, and would he be selected for specialty programs? Would he be selected for
Would he be
post-secondary, or would he be made a libero because he's also one of
Yeah.
the best passers of all
Yeah.
time? He was also a setter, a great setter. He actually played setter indoor. He shared some I almost said
Did he really?
shedding. He shared setting duties with St. John Smith, I believe, in their first year at post-secondary.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's why he's such a great setter on the beach too, right? So he had
Yeah.
setting background, but he was also a great passer. So in this day and age, though, would he be? I don't want to say relegated because liberos are a great position, important position, but would he be made a libero as a junior? Like think about when he's young, coming up.
I think we can probably agree that the likeliness that he would be made a libero is increased
Yeah.
since then. I don't know
Because if the
by
coaching
what
philosophy,
percent.
if the
Yeah.
coaching philosophy, like how, I mean, he was so devastating as a hitter. So Karch Kirai, everybody, if you're a young player or a parent who wants to watch, the ultimate, go look up some Karch Kirai beach volleyball highlights and indoor highlights. U.S. 1984 and 1988 Olympic team. He was the captain of the 88 team, not the captain of the 84 team, right? Or was he captain of both? No, Chris Marlowe was 84, right? Captain?
No, I think he was much earlier than that.
Oh, so Marlowe was captain of 80?
Yeah,
when Karch was a rookie, I think Marlowe was captain.
Yeah.
So for 84 and 88, Karch was the captain.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
You're right. But anyway, so if you go look up those highlights and you'll watch Karch Kirai and you'll just see a devastating outside hitter, super high jumper. But again, I think that in our area, in our part of the world, I don't think there's a way he gets on any of the regional teams. I mean, maybe regional, but not provincial, not national, junior, national. I don't think so. Not as a hitter.
I wouldn't say no way.
You wouldn't say no, but me,
I wouldn't say
honestly,
no way.
but honestly, so I'll tell you right now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I've had coaches, varsity coaches, tell me that they have like amazing 6'2" hitters or 6'3" hitters outside, and the coaches won't even look at them because they want tall.
Do you think the one of the factors is because there's more interest in the sport now than there was then? So you have a greater population, you have a bigger population to pull from. I don't know if that.
Well, I'm not saying that he'd still be. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if he's the most dominant player on every court he walks on, he still would be labeled as something else. Like I told you about that. Like I'm seeing it every day in the club world too, and I'm sure parents listening to this and coaches too are seeing it too. There are players that are just devastating, but they will not get a sniff unless the coach is someone who either played high level. For instance, I keep talking about the camp that my daughters went to, a post-secondary camp where the coach, high level, assistant coach, national team player, and they don't care about that. They don't care about height. They want the best players. But there's a whole other side of the national team programs that are increasingly, in the offices of the national teams, the mandates, the directors, they're saying this is the height minimum. And then those national teams get reamed on TV because they can't pass. And they're not agile enough to handle the fiery serves. They can't dig up a ball. Yeah. And then you get teams like Japan destroying tall countries 3-1 or 3-0, nothing. You know what I mean? And they're young, so watch out for Japan. They'll actually be. It'll be interesting if Japan has great success at the next Olympics in the copycat world, right, where everybody just copies what's working. Yeah. I'll bet you any money there might be a shift to some smaller players. Maybe if they medal or win it, which they could, they're a very young team. That could change a lot in terms of viewpoints of other countries copying, because it was the European success. The Dutch and the Italians were very tall teams back in the late 90s. That sort of sparked a lot of the tall, right?
Especially if they become top 4. Then they're definitely gonna have players and coaches looking at maybe we should design our thinking in a different way.
I think Nishida's doing a lot for that. Again, if you want to go watch some really impressive motivation for your smaller hitters, go take a look at Nishida and the setter Sakita. He's 5 foot. They say 5'9", but there's no way he's 5'9". He's got to be 5'8". Anyway, he's a starting setter on a men's national team, and he blocks everybody. He's in the air longer, but he somehow lands. Yeah. Because that argument I don't like either. He gets aces, he sets, he blocks, and if you have a smaller player, look up Team Japan, the men's the men's national team. I think we should address that topic or come back to that topic of in the air too long, because one thing that I wanted to say was that a lot of coaches use that as an excuse not to take the short player, because the player's in the air too long and therefore they can't land and get up as fast. I think the answer to that, or the counterpoint to that, is that the more agile player or the more coordinated player, and we again don't want to make the assumption that tall players aren't. I'm just saying that the likelihood of a shorter player, yes, they'll be in the air a split second longer, but once they hit the ground, they're able to do more quickly in theory. So what if the defender digs better, right? What if the player who lands can actually jump higher the second time than the tall player, right? But
I see what you're saying.
There's a little more agility or choice, safer landing.
The only relevance I think that argument is relevant in, is two blockers, 1'6'8", 6 foot, equally athletic, right? Middle blockers. This is the only time I think it's relevant. The middle blocker can commit on like a 70-80% pop up for the quick.
Yep.
The smart setter doesn't set the quick, dishes it outside. That middle will land the 6'8" middle will land a fraction of a second sooner. Again, if their athleticism and agility is on par with the 6 foot middle, they might land and get outside to the pin.
I'm not saying that. I think middle should always be tall.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm not in favor of small middle personally. I think a middle always has to be tall. I'm thinking more of the old school days. So I'm talking the outside hitters.
Well, yeah. So being in the air longer, I think that only the only relevant argument is for that in the middle, because you have to. It's definitely an advantage to you commit with your middle, and then they don't get the ball, you land and you get outside, and then you'll get that double block up, right?
I think sometimes they worry about the quick dig in the backcourt, and then the player's still landing, and that happens to a lot of players. I'll make that joke. I used to make that joke about myself.
But that's not a good. I mean, I get it. A dig is better than no dig at all, but like that's not a good dig if it gets fired off and then directly. I mean, but it's still better than no dig.
Yeah.
So.
Or what about
maybe? But
what about the block touch that goes up in the air, and then that player has to wait till they land, then jump up, or versus the tall player who's like, ooh, spring right up, just snap it down. That's sort of, I think, another play they might be thinking of, coaches. Yeah,
but again, like you're seeing, sounds like we're seeing that smaller players are more dynamic players, and so if that is a thing and it goes off the block and it's coming right back up on their head, they can go up, make it look like they're gonna bounce it, and then all of a sudden set their middle. Right. Like we've seen
more options.
Nishida and Ishikawa do that. We've seen Miles Partain do that on the beach. Yep. He's only 6'1".
Yes.
I think.
He's a smaller guy.
6 foot, 6'1", or so he's small. Incredibly dynamic. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that has a leg to stand on.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just playing devil's advocate as to what they would say.
Right.
I think, too, that the smaller player in that scenario of like a touch, a block, balls up in the air, I think they would be more likely to even depending on how high it goes, get a backswing and a proper takeoff versus just a stand-up quick jump. You know what I mean? Little players can be a little more agile that way. Yeah, I don't buy that in the air too long garbage. I mean, isn't that the best? Is that what you want? What do you tell? Do you tell your middles not to jump high if they can? Hey, don't jump so high. It's like we talked about. If you could serve it way further, remember, don't serve so close to the tape, please. Yeah, Meach, you gonna say anything?
Nope.
Sorry, I thought you were. Maybe it was just a fart.
Did well.
Maybe just a sound. One of those grunts that Meach loves over there. Cuban, one of those Cuban grunts. Okay. So I think there's a problem in the game. I think that if coaches, I mean, here's the other thing too. Like if you are going to make a player a libero, there's only one or two spots on the team, and if they're getting taller as well. Again, there's a lot of athletic people leaving the game. So is the libero the worst thing that ever happened to the short player in volleyball?
No, I don't think the libero is a bad thing.
No? Like as it pertains to this argument, what I mean is, has it given every coach a little box so whenever they see a short player, they go, oh, libero. They don't even care how they play.
I think the problem with libero is in the development stages of volleyball for sure. When you're taking those reps away from that kid who's playing middle, even though you don't know if they're going to be best suited as a middle.
Oh, but let's not get it. Let's not get into the middles. That's the next show topic.
Oh, right. But it still applies because
you always bring it back to you.
You're taking you could be taking reps away from that middle. Or, what was the other thing I was going to say is...
when the outside hitter, they don't get hitting reps anymore because they're made libero. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, that too,
I think you're going to say that.
Yeah, sure. Oh.
That's what I want you to say.
What was I going to say? Yeah. No, yeah, I think libero's position is a equally justified position, but I think, you might see some problems with it.
Yeah.
When should you start to use a libero?
Well, there are mandates in certain areas, so they don't allow libero. They don't allow specialization of position sometimes till age 15 or 16.
Well, that's
in some
good.
yeah, that's good. I agree with that. A lot of coaches hate that, and then
You should get a taste of it before varsity, should you not?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. The problem is, like we said, is that if you lock someone in to some position, like we'll talk about this later too, specialty positions and how it's middles or not really middles, and they're made to play middle, and then they never get to pass, and then they go to some post-secondary place, and they're told that they're an outside hitter all of a sudden, and they don't make the team because they've never passed in club. That's a big problem, and I think equally the other problem is that it's too easy once they created the libero position to say to players, I don't care if you're cranking it outside. You're a libero. I think the libero took like potentially 2 short players on the court and just made it 1 short player, and that's all you get. And now you're having bad passing teams that are like taller. Not that that's the only. I'm not saying that tall players can't pass, but generally speaking, it's physiologically much more difficult for a tall player to get down to their feet because of the distance, right? I think that's fair to say. Short players can get to the ground faster, get down low faster. So you take all the short players out of the equation and just you give them one or two of them as a libero, backup libero, and then you don't have anybody swing in that's short. And then in a game situation, those tall outside hitters are now your passers, and you're wondering why your team can't pass, or they can't dig, or they can't do defense. So that's what I meant by is the libero a bad thing? Not that we want to get rid of it, but now it's funny because in the States now liberos are serving. In the United States, not in the rest of the world, but in the United States, liberos can now serve. So man, I mean that'll get into that middle show. Man, the middles are. What can a middle do now? Rotate through the front row. Pretty soon they'll liberos can block.
Yeah.
It'll just be the middle again.
Liberos can set anywhere.
Yeah. So
if you're being scouted or whatever, and they're like, okay, you're gonna play libero, you can just be like, no, I'm gonna screw you guys. I'll go to a different school.
Yeah,
it's not like they're condemned to it.
But they're so they've
limited options.
Yeah,
so you have
limited
to pick
option.
Pick one of them.
And and if they all
still want to play the sport, then
and if they have the same mindset, because like we said, part of why we're doing this too is to counteract that. Some of these videos talk about this stuff. You go on YouTube and you find videos where oh, if you're this height, then you should be a libero, and you can't, or coaching videos where that encouraged tall players to be your outside hitters only, right?
Yeah.
I think there's the crux of this matter, now that we're an hour and a half in. Let's wake up. Hey, wake up, everybody. Listen, the crux is that there are kids that are not getting to play the position they should be playing because of they're being prejudged and labeled, right?
Potentially they should. The exposure should stay. I don't know.
It's just not fair, right? It's just not. It's just like anything that's based on the exterior.
Keep the doors open as long as you can, I guess.
If you're prejudging players, and you're not, and they're just copying each other, right? Like, okay, that team takes all the tall, or that coach takes all the tall, so I'll just take the tall. Remember to the point, like I said about my friend who was an opposing player and one of the best short hitters I've ever played against. I think honestly, and he didn't even like the short players.
That's that whole group think, right?
It is.
It's like, oh, they're doing it, and it's just goes on and on.
Yeah,
and on and on.
Everybody starts drinking the same Kool-Aid, and I said to him, you've been in this system too long, man, because you're just sitting in these meetings and you're buying into stuff that goes against your own experience as a player. I literally said to him, so you wouldn't even make your own team,
right? And we're not knocking the tall players.
No, that's important, and we are doing a whole other show on the plight of tall players. But I think the same issue. It's the same issue behind it is that they're all being pigeonholed.
Yeah.
Right. They're all being stereotyped. Whether it's a tall player or short player, they're all being stereotyped. They're not being judged for the content of their skill, how they play. Right. They're being judged based on how they look, which is horrible. Right.
Right. And the thing is for young players is to don't allow yourself to be pigeonholed. Don't allow yourself to think oh, this is my position. I can't do anything else, because it's not the case. And, and it's not based on your size. It's based on your will and based on what you want to accomplish in the sport.
That's a great point. Yeah, fight through. There is, like, I did say this. We did make a post about this. There's real advantage sometimes in being overlooked, right?
Yeah, enjoy the opportunity to possibly be that libero, but then also like it's like, hey, next year you're gonna play right side. Be like, oh,
yeah,
okay, let's go.
Yeah,
you know, like that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, or like the problem I think too is that players are getting cut. Like they're not even getting to play libero.
Yeah.
So that don't forget that's
sucks.
the problem, is that you
That's
might be might be a really good player, and you're gonna get cut, and then it's hard to keep up the skill. But you can do it. And what's the answer, guys? Right? We're kind of this is gonna go into the tall show. This show. What's the answer for players who get neglected indoors? I gave you the answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
What is the answer, Meach? Meach still doesn't know. Look, Meach still doesn't know what happened. He doesn't know.
No, please. I don't know.
Okay, so the answer, Erik, what's the answer?
This is play beach.
Play beach.
Well, it's
How
not
did you
the,
know?
It's not the answer. It's what he wants to hear.
How did you know? Well, it is the answer. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, mister.
Yeah. Change my mind.
You don't think?
No, I agree.
Oh, you agree?
I agree.
You agree, but
You
agree what?
You just directed that question
Yes.
to what you wanted.
So
to
Erik, Meach, the hint was when I said if you're getting neglected indoors, and you still didn't
ultimate frisbee.
So when I step on your foot and say beach, I want you to say beach. Okay. So where can a player go, Meach?
What happens?
I love how Zuby
there's
coerces
no beach
people
available.
to say what
What?
he wants.
There's no
Eric,
beach
stop
available.
interrupting Amici. I can't hear Amici. Yes?
Sorry.
Yes,
What
Amici.
if there's no beach available?
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, what if you're in
there's lakes. You can have.
Lake ball.
We have we play on a lake beach.
Yes.
What
We
if
have
you're in
the beach
Iceland? What if
available.
you're in
Our first
Iceland?
preference is to play on the beach, not in the lake.
Or what if you're in a place like Norway? I mean, they could never be good at beach volleyball. We're laughing because the best team in the world right now is from Norway. That's why Zuby's
Two
joke
of
is
them.
funny.
Two of them.
There's another
Norway
team. Yeah, that's very
nasty.
good.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought you meant there's two players on each.
No. No.
No, but sorry. So the idea I was getting at is that this is why I think the growth. We're going to talk about this in the show, but why is beach growing or exploding in growth? I think a lot of it is because of to get away from that world of bias, where middles can't pass, but now they can on the beach, and short players can't hit, but now they can on the beach. So I think there's a lot to be said for why that's happening and why beach is growing so much, because I think people love to get. I mean, that's why a lot of people went in the first place. Like even our generation, people loved the idea of getting away
It's
from
the
all
freedom,
the craziness of indoor and the structure of it and the coaching.
It's awesome. The environment's awesome.
You're on a beach,
Yeah,
and
it's
you're shirtless.
And you only have to find
Well-
one more person to play with.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
You just have to find one play, and then you don't get subbed off. You don't get, this isn't a commercial for beach, but okay, I just invested in beach volleyball. I have huge stock in beach volleyball.
Yes.
And Budweiser.
No, just
Sport that
it's funny.
produces.
Budweiser is something you could really invest in.
Yeah.
The funny part was that I was saying
You
something.
can't invest in beach?
You can't invest in beach volleyball.
Yes, you can.
I mean, one company.
How
or
many
two,
jokes?
maybe.
How many of your own jokes have you had to explain?
I don't know, but it's getting problematic.
It's
I
pretty
think
bad.
I think I'm just gonna go.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go. I'm too short for the show.
It's been good.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us in the final episode of Volleyballogy. We just decided like we're gonna break up.
Yeah.
I'm like John Lennon. Eric's like Paul McCartney, and I guess that would make Amici Yoko.
Yoko.
You're
coming down.
There,
Too
you guys
obvious. The
finally
whole
got it.
world.
I could have said Ringo.
Our viewer knew.
The whole.
Our viewer.
Oh,
Thank
Meach.
you, viewer.
He just.
I know you
ruined that
support
joke.
me.
Everybody loves Meach's sexy voice. Meach, give us some sexy voice before we go.
If you want to hear the smooth, cool sounds of Volleyballogy, tune in to the next episode that doesn't happen.
Meach used to be a jazz DJ. Not a true story.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, by the way, hey, viewer comments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so Erik, one of Erik's friends, mentioned that my voice is very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
We think it.
I shouldn't have passed that
so
on.
maybe I don't know. I think I think what your friend meant was sexy.
Well,
So let's maybe the viewers can help us decide which voice is the sexiest. Not sexiest, but best.
Well, that viewer can decide.
Yeah, we only have one
But
viewer.
we all
I think-
know.
I sound
think
better
we-
when I'm sick, so I'm gonna have to go like.
You said that, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
true.
gonna
no.
go get people to sneeze on me.
Oh, Eric's doing
And
that
then
thing
I'll-
again,
I'll
where we
roll it.
tell Erik how sexy he sounds all the time.
Uh-huh. Hey. No,
Hey.
it doesn't work.
No,
That's
but
a
I
good
think
font.
I think we definitely know that we have 3 viewers,
Yeah.
guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
Although Meach doesn't really watch. Anyway,
It could be.
okay, let's wrap this up. This is annoying. So the bottom line is, if we were to sum it all up, take the best players and let. I think that if a player is a good hitter, a devastating hitter, outside hitter, and they're short, at least let them get on the team and try that role. Because if you take a year out of that kid's development at that position, it's very difficult to get back.
And
Unless they're playing beach.
then no one is getting shortchanged. Not the coach, not the team.
What was that?
A pun.
You didn't even mean to.
Oh,
You didn't
no,
even
I
mean
didn't
to
mean
shortchange.
to.
I think Meach just named this episode.
Short change.
No, nobody will know. But
Eh.
no, that was great.
Don't
Meach.
tell.
And Erik, anything to add at the end before we sign off here?
Well, I think
You don't have to say anything, just so
Oh.
you know.
I was gonna say like liberos are kind of crazy, right? So you don't want to be a libero.
You don't want to be a libero. Okay.
Okay, we are doing a libero
kidding,
show.
I'm
We
kidding.
are doing a libero show. That's like the old hockey goalie argument, right? The hockey goalies are crazy. They're not. But anyway, all right, guys. So thanks again for watching and listening. We always appreciate you guys. And if you have anything to add, feel free to comment and let us know what you think about this. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And I think next week's show is going to be the plight of the tall player. It has to be, right?
Yeah.
Because they have a whole different set of issues.
Yeah.
I should know. All right. See you
Yeah.
guys.
Take care.
Good job.
See ya.
Liberos are crazy though.
What's the big idea?